One of the things that's wonderful about quieting down for a moment, whether we call it meditation or not, is something that I know a great many people can actually relate to, and that's that sometimes when they close their eyes and sit down quietly, they lose track of time. And I mean those moments in which we're not sure where the time went at all. Like we have no idea, was it a moment that passed, or was it 5 minutes? Maybe it was half an hour. And the reason that's so juicy is that stepping away from time for a moment is also frequently, not always, but very frequently goes together with essentially stepping away from one's physical sense of self for a few moments, which is a remarkable and marvelous, wonderful way to experience one of those things that I often talk about, which is taking that backward step from a sense of being an individuated self in the first place. One of the things that's so marvelous about that experience is that if one has stepped outside the bounds of time for a moment, and maybe even recognize that they stepped outside the bounds of their physical sense of themselves as well for a moment, then it can be extraordinarily restful. It can be very healing. And that's really what I wanted to get at. The fact that it can be very healing. That stepping away can be such a respite, both from the physical sense of self as it exists in time, and is often experienced as stepping away for a moment from the internal world, the machinating, the busyness of the mind. And so it can become a respite from both of those. I guess it's on my mind in part because this beautiful redwood tree behind me is well over 1,000 years old. It's been here for a really long time. I have to say that being in this place surrounded by trees just like it does itself have a very healing quality to it. But I know that that experience of stepping away, stepping back from one's sense of self in the ways that I'm describing, in ways that many, many, many people out there are in fact familiar with, when they've lost track of time for a moment, stepped essentially outside the bounds of it, then they've actually touched an experience that is more eternal even than this tree, and has even greater healing opportunities than being in a place like a first growth forest. It's that healing that I would wish to point to always. How does one do it? How does one find that? There are a few things we could do to point us towards it. It generally works like this. First of all, we have to have the courage to stop. Stop whatever we're doing, at least for a moment. It doesn't take more than a moment. We have to stop and acknowledge what's actually going on inside us for real. Really, what's going on inside us. And the reason for that is that we cannot really fathom stepping back from something that we don't know exists, or that we don't actually see. You have to see what's in front of your nose first before you can actually take a step back from it, generally. So the first thing we have to do is stop. The second thing we have to do is look. Look at what's external, but particularly to look at what's internal. Look at what's going in our minds It doesn't mean that we have to stop it. That's not what's happening here at all. In fact, that's not the intention. It is merely an act of stopping to look at what's going on inside. So one lets it run. There's no need to do anything to it or try to avoid it or suppress it. We just merely stop and look at it while it runs. The third is that as we stop and we look, we make no judgment about it whatsoever. We don't call it good or bad or painful or tiresome or frustrating or fantastic. We just look with no judgment whatsoever. And we just let it be. And then if there is a fourth step, one can also turn the looking around and find awareness of that which is doing the looking. And that's where one will find that looking comes from a place that is indeed outside of time. And if it is outside of time, then it is not contained in a specific point in space either. It cannot be. And if one can go through those steps, then one will find that awareness that is aware of doing the looking is not contained or impugned by the body, nor is it contained by or impugned by or controlled by the personality or even the busyness of that mind. It's beyond all of those things. And it is because it's beyond them that when we touch it, it can be so very, very healing. Because it means we can touch what is beyond anything that we could conceive of as being broken or hurt or needing to be healed in the first place. And that's what can be found absolutely anywhere. May you find it. And if you'd ever like to join me on the trail, walking in spirit, you're welcome to look me up. Peace be with you, my friends. Keep going. Maybe I'll see you on the trail.